Okay. Hi, folks. I'm back. So yeah, today we'll be building a Chrome extension in JavaScript, and we'll be taking Duet AI's help in that. Let me just first walk you through the use case. It's a pretty simple and fun use case, I think. Let's say you want to join a meeting, but you don't want to be the first to join it. You want to probably wait for somebody else to join it to avoid small talk, or you want to squeeze in more time of watching your favorite Netflix series. So you with this extension, you get a notification as soon as the first person joins your uh, the meet call. Let me just show you how it looks. So I'll just go to any meeting here. Um, yeah, and so this is where I'm at. And in this screen, I do not want to basically join this meeting until somebody is already joined, right? So let me try to simulate um, that somebody else is joining this meet call. So an external person has joined this meet call. From my perspective, it looks like this, right? Somebody has now joined this meet call. So uh, how do we, where do we, so as you can see, is the notification visible on the chat? I think so, right? Yes. So this is the notification that you'll see. This is what we are going for. Okay, so that is the use case. Let me just close this quickly. And yeah, so a Chrome extension has, I mean, we're expecting, uh, we don't need you to be, fairly proficient in building the Chrome extensions, but we are expecting some level of JavaScript understanding. It is not required because Duet will definitely help you over it, but it is definitely, it will be a more fluent experience for you. A Chrome extension has a lot of parts, content script, a background service worker. There are a lot of APIs. There are techniques like message passing, storage. So we'll not be going through all of that, but a little bit of that to just introduce you to the world of Chrome extensions, right? So we'll go to step 2. These are the initial prerequisites. Obviously, you need the Chrome browser, right? Because you're dealing with Chrome extensions. It will be very fluent for you if you have some sort of a local editor on your system. You can work by with the Cloud Shell editor as well. I have given this small note here. You can work with the Cloud Shell editor, but because this is going to be an iterative process, what I mean is, let's say we change something, we want to see what effect that change has in the extension. So with the Cloud Shell editor, you'll have to download that on your local system again and again, and trying to use that as an extension. That's a very big friction point. So in order to avoid that, I would recommend you use an IDE or editor. I'll be using VS Code. You can certainly, even Notepad should work, Notepad++ should work. It should not matter as long as you're able to save files in the required extensions. I hope that's fine. So let's get started a little bit. So yeah, firstly, just make sure that Duet AI's API is enabled. If you attended the last session, it should definitely be. But here is the link in the code lab, right? Just click on it and make sure you're on the right project if you're dealing with multiple projects.
Can I just interrupt you quickly? So, folks, really quickly, for those who did not attend the last session, this is the most important point. Without enabling Duet AI API, you would not be able to proceed with this, right? You will be lost. So make sure you are copying the link from the code lab for the Duet AI marketplace and opening it in the same account in the Chrome browser where you actually activated the credits, right? So use the same browser, same account to open this link. Or if you already have console.cloud.google.com open in that activated page, so go in the search bar and you can search for Duet AI and it'll appear right below Marketplace. Either one you can do, but wherever you're opening this link, make sure it is the same account where you activated your credits, right? Make sure your project is showing in the top left corner. If you see Saranch's screen, right next to Google Cloud logo, you're seeing the project ID listed. So that has to be there. And also make sure you activated the billing account, right? These two steps are mandatory. We are not going to repeat that step now. We are going to go ahead with enabling the API. So just follow along. The Code Lab has the link to where Saranch is landed right now. See, he's highlighted there. So that is a link. Right click, copy the link, come back to the tab or browser where you have the billing account activated. So that is exactly where you have to open this link. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, once you click this link, you should land here. And as you can see here, it says API enabled. Probably if it's not enabled for you, it should have a button called enable. Once you click that, it should land you in the same state, right? Once it is enabled, this next link, visit the Duet AI page in a new tab and start chatting. So I've opened this in a new tab, and this is the start chatting button should show you, should be visible for you. If you used it before, it should just directly take you to the prompt. This is where we'll be asking all our questions. So that's our prerequisite. No other important steps needed. Good. Shall we move on? Okay. Show of thumbs for if we should move on. Hmm. Okay, I think we're good. All right. Okay. Yeah. So just make sure that you have a editor in your local system. It'll be really fluent for you, like VS Code, Notepad, Notepad++, whatever works. Okay. So as mentioned, let the fun begin. Well, another small note about Duet is so Duet AI is basically non-deterministic in nature, right? What it means is that the same prompt that we ask. So if I ask something again, these prompts that we have mentioned here, if I ask them again, I might get a different response, right? That's an inherent nature of generative AI. You might get a very different response for something, but that's why we have, for more of the important things, we have a response here, which we want you to adhere to for this code lab, right? It will be very useful if you just copy. I'll definitely mention when you have to copy something into a file, but it'll just make your experience smoother and you'll be able to follow along smoothly. But I would highly encourage later on when you see this recording or follow this code lab again, try and experiment with the responses you get from you. Okay. So the first thing is that we'll be creating a folder. I'll create it as well. So yeah, you can either use a terminal or you can use your in Windows, just go click right click new folder. In Mac, just create a new folder in your Finder, or if you're a Linux person, then you already, I think so you're good with shell commands. So I'll just do that, and I will open this in my VS Code. Yeah. Okay, so this is where I'll be doing most of the yeah work or any kind of code related stuff. Okay, so let's first ask Duet, because we're not really assuming that you already know how to build a Chrome extension, right? We want you to be inquisitive enough, or basically take Duet AI's help as much as possible. So let's just copy this prompt and see what responses we're getting from Duet, right? So I've copied the first prompt here. What are the important parts to build a Chrome extension? Let me just see what is the response from Duet. I encourage you to follow along in another tab, or you can just see what my responses are here. So Duet's responses, to build a Chrome extension, you will need the following: a manifest file that defines extensions, permissions, background scripts, another detail about background script, a user interface, and a way to package. Very important and very useful information. So a small note about the manifest file. A manifest file is basically just a place for us to kind of explain what the metadata of this Chrome extension is. That can be as simple as a name, the author's email, the description. It can be something more functional, like I want you to inject this JavaScript when this thing happens. I want you to enable this permission, right? Because Chrome extensions have all sorts of permissions related to it, right? So we'll be starting with a manifest file.
So one point right here is for folks to know where to find this Duet AI chat console, right? So you activated it, go to the Google Cloud console, click on the Google Cloud logo once.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, because I saw a few questions in the chat. I thought this was important to get
Sure.
it out of the way before we get started. So if you see, You see a search bar on, you see Google Cloud logo on the left, top left corner, and then you see project drop down, and then you see a search bar, and then you see the search button. And to the right of it, you see the diamond studded chat icon, which says open Duet AI. If you hover over it, click that. That is what's going to open the Duet AI chat console for you. But this is tiny, it's in the corner. So you want to pop out by clicking the pop out icon. That's it. That's where you have the Duet AI chat console open, chat assistant open separately. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, coming back to our first prompt, what are the important parts to build a Chrome extension? So Duet has promptly responded with whatever the important parts are. So a manifest file is basically a very important and probably the most important structure of a file or part of your Chrome extension. So let's just dive a little bit into how can we create a manifest file? Okay. So here's your next prompt that I have in the code lab. Create a manifest.json file to build a Chrome extension, make the name of the extension meet joinees notifier, and the author, by all means, put your email here, right? So I'll just copy this and put it in the chat again. I'll change it to, it's not that important, but sure. By all means, change the name of the extension if you want that. Feel free to personalize. Okay, so Duet has responded to us with a very, it's actually pretty accurate structure, and this is like showing the power of Duet AI, I think. But right now in the current step, we do not need a few of these, right? Because we are, like I said in the beginning, we are going to be a little bit iterative with this. I don't want to overwhelm everybody with background script and permissions and everything. So right now, let's just have a basic setup and see if we can enable our extension, right? So let me just say to you might be seeing even more fields here. Like I said in the beginning, Duet AI is a little bit non-deterministic. So you might, and manifest file has a lot of different ways, a lot of different fields here. So what I need is I need to remove permissions, background, and action. So I'll just ask Duet to do that. I'll remove the permissions. Oops, I'm not writing. Remove the permissions, background, and the action field. Okay, let's see if Duet is able to return. Yep, sure enough, Duet is able to return the same code snippet, and it was able to gather the context that it has to remove permissions and the other field that I asked it to. So you can either copy from this button, copy it from here, or like I've already mentioned, in the code lab, we already have something here, right? So I would like you to just copy this from the code lab and go back to our code editor, which is completely empty right now. Let's create our first file here, called, name it manifest.json. So far, is everybody following along? Just give me a show of thumbs. Do I have to enter my email? So it's up to you. It's up to you. The fields that you want in the manifest file, that's up to you how or what to say there. Okay. All right. I'll just reiterate. We are at the step 3, and we have done a couple of prompts in Duet AI, and right now we are at the stage where we are about to check our first iteration of the manifest.json version file. Okay. So yeah, coming back to this code editor, create the manifest.json file, put the information that you have already gotten, and just use, if you want, you can use your email. Like you see, I'm not really using my email here, but I just want something there. So we already have we have a initial version there. We have the manifest.json file, but how to test it, right? So let me go ahead and ask you it again. This is a prompt in the code lab. in the, you should see immediately after the code. Let me go to Duet AI and again ask that. Guide me on the steps needed to test a Chrome extension on my local file system. Let's see what it responds to us. Create a new folder, manifest.json file. Okay, so it is actually giving me a way to test my extension, but not really a visual way, right? It's giving me a little bit of a, well, using CLI, using the Chrome CLI. What we'll be doing in this code lab though is use a little bit more visual method, which I have listed here, but I will still go ahead and show it to you. Essentially, we have to go on the extensions page. There are a couple of ways to do that. One way is you can either copy this Chrome extension that you see highlighted on my screen, paste it in the new tab, just hit enter. You'll see this extensions page, right? Either that, or you can click this jigsaw button that you see just beside the bookmark star. If you click this and click on manage extensions, you should again reach the extensions page, right? So this is where you come to just get the just see all the extension. I'll remove this because this was what I showed initially. Right now I have no other extension. So this is how it should look like to you. This developer mode checkbox should be disabled for you. Are we good?
Okay, folks, we are at step 3, and we have completed a few prompts. We started. Saransh was going through all these steps, and I see a lot of questions about the previous step that we were on, which is step 2 and step 3. I hope you're able to follow the code lab and also copy stuff from the code lab as and when he's guiding, so that you're not lost. You're not lost midway. So we have asked a couple of prompts. We have copied the prompt results, and also if you're not on the prompt, that's fine. The code itself in the manifest file, it's right there in the code lab. You can copy from there directly. All right, and copy the prompt, put it in the Duet AI chat console, which you have opened previously on Google Cloud Console. Ask the question and get the answer. Sometimes, like we said, it's non-deterministic. Sometimes you get the exact answer, the exact method that we have used in the code lab. Sometimes it will give you alternate ways to do the same thing. In either case, Aransh is walking through what is the best case and the best method forward and what we are going to do. So just follow that. So we are right now at the point where the first changes are done in manifest.json file. So if you are not having a local editor, feel free to just create a folder in your local file system. Just create a, maybe in your downloads folder or in your C drive users folder, just create a folder with any project name of your choice, and then create a manifest.json file, just like you would create any txt file, right? And then put the code content from here into it, save it, and follow what he's saying to see the extension in action. All right, he's going to show you one more time how to see the extension on the browser. Just make sure whatever changes you've done so far are reflecting in the browser. It's very minimal at this point, right? Thank you.
Okay, I'll repeat the last step again. I do see some questions about what things we can change, or somebody received extra fields. So like I said, right, it's non-deterministic. That means you will get some contextual details. So you can either try it with that, like I've mentioned here. It's completely fine to experiment with those fields, right? If you see some permissions, you're asking for tabs or some notifications or something like that, storage, it's completely fine. But you might not need them, right? Essentially, for a good developer, it's very important for you to know why you're using something. So that's why we have this minimal code here, which I think so. It will be very fluent if you just copy this right now, but you can definitely change. For example, you can change the author, you can change the description, you can change the name. Do not change the manifest version, because that is something very very core to the extensions infrastructure. It's basically defines that I'm using this extension, I'm developing this extension with a manifest version of 3. These are sort of versions. So when you hit an API, right, they have versions as well. So just like that, Chrome extensions also has an infrastructure of these these manifests. So we are basically declaring that manifest version is 3. You can even change the version, but I mean, it only makes sense for you to either have a 0.1 or a 1.0, right? So yeah. Again, just copy this and paste it in a manifest.json file. Like Abhirami said, if you do not have an editor, if you're on Windows, you can just open Notepad, save the file as manifest.json. That's important. It should not be manifest.json.txt. Windows does that by default. So you'll have to change that to all files. I'm afraid I can't show that because I'm on Mac, but I'm sure you would have saved files with different extensions all the time, right? So now going to the next step. We've already asked how to, how to test the Chrome extension on the local file system. So what we'll do is we'll go to the extensions page. How can you go to the extensions page? The easiest way, the most visual way, is to click this jigsaw button on the right side of your search bar. Click the jigsaw button and just click manage extensions. Okay, you'll come to this extensions page. This page can also be brought by just entering this in the search bar and hitting enter, right? Chrome extension. This is inside this instruction is in the code lab, right? Now, this is basically listing all the extensions you have on your system. If you have installed any extensions previously, or there are default extensions in your Chrome browser, you'd be seeing them right now. So you have to click on developer mode here. If you see on the right hand side on the top, there is a developer mode radio button. So just switch it on. Once you switch it on, congratulations, you're a developer. But you'll also be greeted with these three buttons, right? So what we have to do is we have to click on load unpacked. This means that you are instructing Chrome to load an extension from a folder. That's what we want, right? We created a folder, we added manifest.json file in it, and we want Chrome to basically take this folder and use it as an extension, right? So let's see what happens. When you click load unpacked, you get a basic dialog box. Just a second. So yeah, when you click on load unpack, just select your the folder that you created. I'll just go ahead. You can also drag and drop. Let me just do that. Actually, because I'm using Chrome Canary, so there was a small bug there. So I'll just drag and drop. But yeah, you can either drag and drop or you can just select it normally, like this. So now it's there. So if you're able to do that, you should see the extension pop up like this. I'll give everybody a few seconds to just. Yeah, as usual, code Vipassana's tradition, show of thumbs. How to create a directory. I'm afraid that's something. So you can definitely ask Duet AI to do that. That'll be great in your operating system, how to do that. But you can easily just go to the terminal and just write mkdir. It's again in the code lab here. Yeah. So, okay, that's a good point. If you see errors here somewhere, so here's the extension. If you see errors here, or if you see cannot load, manifest file is incorrect or something like that, then there is likely some error here. So let me try and recreate that. Let's say I don't know if this isn't. Let me try and do that. So it does give me some sort of error that failed to load extension. Why is that? Because the JSON file is not incorrect, right? The manifest JSON that I have, this is not valid JSON. So that is why also we recommend that, during the session, you can probably follow along by copy pasting from here and only changing the minimal. But later on, by all means, go ahead and try and experiment what all things you can change, right? So as you can see, once I corrected the JSON here, and I went ahead and reloaded the extension, it enabled. So it also says reloaded here, right? So which means it was accepting the contents as a valid extension. Agreed. So I'll move on.
One last thing. So folks who have not, so when Saransh guided you with the steps for manifest.json, he also asked you to remove a few lines, because sometimes Duet AI provides one way of doing it, and it provides some background scripts also along with it. If you had not removed the attributes that he asked you to remove, you would see that as one of the errors that's popping up. And that's what Vandana Soni, you're also facing that error. I see that in the chat. I know that this is a showstopper for you. That is why I just unmuted and wanted to highlight this. Please feel free to copy the manifest.json from the code lab and then continue with this, proceed with this. You probably missed when Saransh actually pointed that out to remove certain things. You might have missed that. So he has brought it up again. So I have brought it up again. So please copy that from the code lab and run it. You should be able to do it. So can you just quickly summarize what we have done so far and before moving to the next one? Folks, now he's just summarizing what we've done so far. So just show of thumbs after he finishes this. How many of you were able to get to this point? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So essentially, just go to the code lab, copy the contents of this manifest.json file. Try to remove any extra fields that you have. So the default pop-up or the backgrounds or something, because you will not have those files right now, right? So Chrome will not be able to find it, and therefore you'll get an error. So just copy this content, put it in the contents as the contents of a manifest.json file. Make sure there's no trailing comma or anything, because that will mean it's an incorrect JSON, right? So just keep it like this, and then go to the extensions page. How to go to the extensions page? Just click on this jigsaw button, click on manage extensions. Let me remove this once again to just show. By default, this is how it should look like. You have to click on the developer mode so that you're able to do something custom. Basically, you're telling them that, okay, I want to do something custom. So when you switch on the developer mode, you should see these three buttons. Right now, you're only concerned with load unpacked. So when you click on load unpacked, you should select the folder that you just created, where your whole, which is your project root, right? Where we have hosted the manifest.json file, right? So when you select it, it should show you a new Chrome extension here, which is the exact one with the same name that we have put, with the same description that we have put. Okay. So now let's see a show of hands. Okay. All right. I'll move on now. Okay. Okay, so we do have, we do have a way for, we can see the Chrome extension. That means we are able to now guide Chrome on using our Chrome extension. But now let's try to add some functionality, right? So the next step is to add a content script. Let me just tell you what a content script is. Basically, content script is one of the ways for us to tell the Chrome extension to inject some JavaScript code into one of the pages, right? So essentially, if you remember our use case, what do we want? We want to go to meet.google.com, and we want to recognize if something custom is happening. In our case, we want to recognize if a participant has already joined the call, right? How will we do that? We'll basically be running some JavaScript code in that page, right? That's our only way. There are many ways to execute a JavaScript code in the tabs and the URLs, but right now we'll be using the way called content script. So let us ask Duet AI on how we can add a content script in a Chrome extension, right? So I'll again copy the prompt from here. We are on step 4. This is the first prompt. So I'll go to Duet AI's tab and I'll paste this prompt here. How to add a content script in a Chrome extension. Okay. All right. As you can see, it basically what it says is create this file, and in the file put some JavaScript code, and most importantly, in the manifest file you have to declare the content script like this. So as you can see, it's one of those extra fields, right? Previously we had background scripts, we had permissions, etc., but now we are getting this. Let's not copy this right now. Let's try to be a little bit more specific to our need, right? We don't want the content script to run on every page, right? So this content script will run on every page. What we want is we want the content script to only run on the me.google.com page, right? So let's be a little bit more specific with our prompt, because that's what one of the great things about Duet AI is that you are in control of what you want, right? So if you tweak your prompts in certain ways, you'll be getting way different responses, maybe much better responses according to you. So let us try the second prompt. how to add a content script to run on meet.google.com subdomain in our Chrome extension. So let me just go to the Duet AI tab and paste that. So as you can see, it added a few things here, right? It basically added this matches with the specific subdomain. So what is it doing now? It's basically telling that any page on this subdomain, so star means any, right, in the programming world. So any page that matches this URL, we'll run this content script.js content script, this file name on that page. Make sense? Right. So far, everybody following along? We have not really done anything after the last step. I'm just explaining how we can proceed with Duet AI. Okay. But I think we can do even better. We can probably say a little bit, what exactly we want, and we can even ask Duet AI to create the content for us, right? Let me see what this does. What this does? Yeah. The next prompt basically, help me add a content script named this specific file to run on this subdomain in our Chrome extension. The content script should simply log hello Duet AI when we navigate to meet.google.com. Very specific, right? This is what we want pretty much. So I'll just copy that prompt, the third prompt in the fourth step, and I'll put it in the prompt chat for Duet AI. All right. So what did it change? It essentially renamed the name of the content script because that's what I asked it to do, right? And it also gave me the contents of the content script because I pretty much asked it. I asked it that the content script should simply log this statement. It was able to infer that I'm looking for a JavaScript file, and it gave me pretty much the whole content, right? But as we've already mentioned, so what I want you to do is we'll be overriding the file, overriding the contents of the manifest.json file with this response, which we just got, right? But I would recommend do not copy from the Duet AI tab because as you can see, it also gave you some extra fields. It gave you permissions, which we do not need right now. It will not break anything, but you might be receiving background script. You might be receiving some file which does not exist. So I would recommend go to the code lab and just copy this content of the manifest.json file and overwrite the contents in the manifest.json file. I didn't really change a lot. I only changed the content scripts, right? But by all means, just copy it from there. And so far, so good. So it's not manifest.js file, it's manifest.json file, just to be clear. Because it's basically a JSON which is declaring different things. So if you see, it's not a JS file. Okay. Now with this, because we got what are we trying to do? We are trying to inject this JavaScript file, right? So we have to create this file as well before we are able to test it. So as you can see in the code lab, we have this content. So just copy it. And in the same folder where you have the manifest.json file, create a new file called content.js. The name is important. It should match what you have here in the content scripts field, content scripts JS field, right? Because that's what Chrome will be executing. So the console.log statement that we got from the code lab and from Duet AI, we'll just be pasting here. Are we okay to move on? Yes, you can create it with the help of Notepad as well. Just make sure that you're saving the files with the relevant extension. Like JSON should be JSON, it should not be JSON.txt. JS should be JS, it should not be JS.txt. Okay. Okay. So I'll be moving on a little bit. Okay. So how do we test it, right? We got our extension. We were able to list the extension in the extensions page, right? Again, to go to the extensions page, click this jigsaw button, click on manage extensions, and we are able to see this, right? How do we test that this content script is being injected in meet.google.com? So what we'll do is we'll go to meet.google.com, and I would like you all to open your JavaScript console. how can you open your JavaScript console? You can either right click and inspect and click on console here. That's one way. You can either click view developer uh, developer tools, right? It should open the JavaScript console. Or in the code lab, there is a, like for both the operate like Mac and Windows and Linux, I have pasted the relevant hotkeys. So once you go, so click on, obviously not click on this, basically go to Google Meet and click, like I'll be clicking Command Option J. So as you can see, it opened the inspector console for me. So if you're on Windows, use Control Shift J. If you're on Linux, use Control Shift J. But there are many ways to open the JavaScript console. So if you so how to test it now? So basically go back to the extensions page, click on the reload button. So this is a little bit important. Whenever we change something in the manifest.json file, we have to sort of reload the extension here by using this button. When you see this extension, there is this reload button beside this radio button here. So when you reload, click on reload, it says reloaded. That means the extension is basically reloaded with its newest, latest contents, right? Updated contents. After that, once you reload meet.google.com, it should basically show the console.log statement for you. Okay, I'll just be adding one more step here, but you do not have to follow along on that step because that is just a, basically, let me just, our laptops here at Google, they have some extra security, right? So we just have to put some extra efforts in order to, for the extensions content script to work. But you do not have to do this key bit. Just reiterating. This is just for me. Otherwise, I won't be able to inject a content script. So obviously I reloaded, it didn't work, but likely because I did not reload the extension now. I'll reload the extension now. This is the new extension with the key. I'll remove the old one. You do not have to follow this. This will not happen for you again. But now if I go to Google Meet, I'll reload. I definitely get the console.log statement here, which means it is also coming from content.js, which means that my content script was injected successfully, right? There was, I'd wait a little bit for this one. The console shows the warning message because it's basically a security feature. Uh, Maybe some bad actors can ask you to paste some JavaScript code and steal information from you, like from your social media or banking profile. So it's almost a security feature. We don't want you to paste something that you do not know what you're doing, right? So, but we are not asking you to paste anything here regardless. It's something that you're in complete control of, right? Because it's on your system. So I'll be moved. It's not okay. Just warning. So were you able to like verify if you're not getting the console.log statement, verify that your manifest.json is at this stage. It is showing the same name as the JavaScript file that you've created. It has the console.log statement in it. And then you, after that, if you need to reload this extension. That is probably the most important part, because unless you've reloaded, Chrome will not know the updated state of that extension. Okay. Fail to load resource error typically means that maybe the file doesn't exist. Recheck the file names. If you're on Windows, Windows does this a lot. If you're using Notepad, for example, you have to save it as all files. Otherwise, you think you're saving it as JS and JSON, but it's actually TXT. Could not load background script is because so Duet would have responded to you with a specific manifest file. But like we said, right, try to adhere to the contents of the files from the code lab. If you use Duet AI, you might get something different. So replace the contents of the manifest file from here. We even have the contents of the content.js file in the code lab, right? We are on the fourth step, and we have just added our first. We've just overwritten the contents of the file, so only once right now. We only have added the content.js file. Okay. All right. So I'll be moving on now. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, as you can see, we've added screenshots for different the console as well. It shows Hello Duet AI. You can see live here as well. I showed you. It says Hello Duet AI. Okay, we'll move on. So this is just, what does this prove? This basically gives us the ability to run some JavaScript on Google Meet.google.com, right? So we are getting closer for sure, but we don't know what to do right now. So now we'll dive a little bit into the JavaScript and observe what we can do in order to detect if somebody has joined the call. All right. So I'll be going to a Google Meet call, and okay, let's just observe what we really want to do. Okay, so by default, this is how the screen looks to us, right? No one else is here. There is no images, nothing like that, right? So, but what happens if somebody has joined? Because essentially that is what we want, right? We want there to be visual differences from the state where nobody else has joined versus when somebody else has joined, right? If we do not know what differences we want, then we won't be able to code it as well. So let me try to simulate that somebody else has joined. I'll just go another tab and I'll join that call. Right. So coming back to this page. So this is the page that we have. I would like to repeat that we are not going to add any, we're not going to focus on this page once you've joined the meeting, because that defeats the use case, right? If you remember the use cases, you want to join after somebody has joined. If you've already joined, then there's no point of, giving you the notifications. So this is just to simulate that somebody has joined. What is the difference we can see in the screen? Right off the bat, I can see two differences, right? One is previously it said no one else is on this call, the status text. But right now it says Saransh is on this call. Also, I can see this image, right? So we have things to go on. Okay, these are the differences that our Chrome extension has to notice and has to notify us. So we are getting closer for sure. But how to code this? Let me just inspect this, right? Because as front-end developers, this is our favorite tool. Okay, so when I'm observing this, I see that every person who has joined has an image, and in fact, I can see this title attribute to their name as well, right? If Abhirami were to join this call right now, this title would be saying Abhirami. No. Right? Anybody so if your manager is joining, obviously it will be their name, right? So we can definitely use this, I think so. And these images are basically children of this div, which has this very weird class name. I don't know why they just not call it all folks, right? But yeah, this hexadecimal class, this is going to be the container for all these images. So we have something to go on, right? But now let's see how we'll get that. Let's go back to the code lab. And this is exactly what I just said, that these are the differences that we are seeing. If you see these two screenshots, right, this is where nobody else has joined, and this is where somebody has joined. Okay, so let's ask Duet AI what to do, right? Because that's what we're hoping for, that we probably do not know how to go from here, and we just want to see what are our options, right? How can Duet help us? So we'll just copy this prompt, how to detect for element changes in the HTML page, and I'll paste it in the Duet AI prompt. Okay. So if you have developed any JavaScript before, you will know that there are many ways to solve this problem. Many ways. In JavaScript, we can just run an interval, right? A polling interval, which just checks that, okay, does this div have any images? We can have we can just run something constantly and just respond to us. There is request animation frame. There are many ways to solve this. But a very relatively recent API is something called a mutation observer, which is very performant. It's great for performance. Not to dive too deep into that, but that's what we'll be using for this code lab, a mutation observer. Okay, so Duet has given us a way to move forward, but we need to engineer our way on how to do that. Okay, I'll not be diving too deep into the mutation observer, but we'll be talking a little bit about that. Okay, so Duet has told us that use the mutation observer to basically check something reiteratively. What it means, the mutation observer does, I'll just mention a little bit in brief. It basically checks for any mutations on the HTML page. So if a new element is added on the page, removed on the page, if a class is changed, the mutation observer can give you what changed. Okay, so it's a very powerful and a very performant API. But what do we want essentially? What do we want to check? We want to check if this parent div has any child images in the HTML page, right? How did we get this class? We went here, we inspected this element, and we got this class from here, right? So let us just copy this prompt and put in Duet AI and see what it responds as well. Okay, so it actually responded to us with a very it's pretty accurate. That so let me just explain what it is doing. It's basically saying select all the image children of this div with the exact selector that we pasted there. And if the images are the length of the images is greater than 0, then that means there is at least one child image, right? Otherwise there is no child image. This is pretty verbose and exactly the JavaScript code that we need, right? But again, like I said, you might get different responses. So we'll be adhering to what the code lab has already shown you. So essentially, if you see, this is the exact same code in a different format. In JavaScript, there's many ways to write this code. I could merge this img inside the selector. If you're not a front-end developer, then don't worry. I'm just walking you through what it means, right? Okay. So what I want is I want to link these two things. I want the mutation observer to run on any changes on the document, and I want that to respond to me whenever this condition is true, that this container div has at least one child image. Okay, so we'll use this more specific prompt, the next prompt in the code lab. We're still on step 4. We're just moving ahead in the prompt. So it says create a method which checks if the element with this selector has any child elements. If it does, it should log it on the console. The method should be called check joinies, and it should be called as a callback for the mutation observer, which is observing the document body, right? Very specific. So Duet AI loves specific prompts because that's what, using that, it can give us many useful responses, right? We have told it the selector, we have told the selector, we have also told it the method name, we have told that we need to use the mutation observer, we have told that we want to observe the document.body. So let's just copy it and paste it in the Duet AI chat. I've not changed any files, so you don't have to worry if you think that you've missed something. Just follow along in the code lab. These are just instructions on how we are iteratively moving forward. I'll give you time if there's a time, when we have to change the files in the next step. So I've just copied and I'm pasting this in the prompt. Let's see what Duet responds with. Okay. This is actually highly accurate. It's basically creating a mutation observer. It's observing the document body. Remember, this was in our prompt exactly, right? It's basically saying I only want to observe when the child list changes. This is exactly what we want, right? And it's telling that on every mutation, run this check joinies method as a callback, right? We don't have a check joinies method in our content script right now. This is Duet. Just we are basically reiterating on our prompts, which is a skill you should definitely get. And it it's going to basically check for this this container div, and it's saying that if the element count is greater than 0, then new joinies are there. Okay, it's pretty safe, but I would still recommend. So let's do one thing. Instead of this the response, let's just go to the code lab, copy this response that we have right here. So just to mark it, this is the last response of the fourth step. Okay, so copy that and put it as the contents of the content.js file. After our last change, this is the first, this is basically the change that we are doing after our console.log statement. I'll wait for you folks to copy it from the code lab. Okay. So how do we check it again? Remember, I told you whenever we have to change something. So in this case, we didn't change anything in the manifest file, but just to be sure, reload this, go to the extensions page again, reload your extension. If you didn't change the manifest file from the last time, you should not expect any error. If there are errors, just check if the JSON file is correct. If there are any files which are being referenced which do not exist, for example, your manifest file says abc.js or code vipassana is the greatest.js, but that file doesn't exist, then you'll obviously get an error, right? Okay. So now we reloaded this page. Let's try to see what happens. Yes, I'm still here. So let me again just reload this meet page. You can just create another meeting by yourself, or you can just see what I'm doing here on the screen. So this is where I'm at, right? I'm in a new meeting, but I don't want to join. And so I'll just leave it. I won't join. Now I'm simulating somebody else joining this meeting. So let's say my manager or whosoever I have a talk with, they're joining this meeting. So awesome. If you see this console, this is what we were looking for. Essentially, it recognized that there is somebody in this call, and it basically gave us that this container div has at least one child element, right? We could obviously tailor this response by saying somebody has joined this call instead of, has at least one child element, right? But we're going to get to that later. But for now, we are successfully able to recognize that somebody has joined this call versus before when we had no clue on how to do it programmatically, right? So that's a very important step that we have covered. Is everybody at the same page? Are there any major showstoppers? Show of thumbs, show of two thumbs, maybe full hands, party poppers, whatever you want. Stick to thumbs. Stick to thumbs. Not the crab emoji. I've been given to understand you can't use that. Working smooth as butter. Is there a butter emoji? I don't know. Okay. Can you please repeat the last step? Yes, sure. So I want basically what we did is we asked Duet AI that I want to run a mutation observer and I want to run a method that checks for any child elements for this div, right? If you remember, we got this div from inspecting this element, right? So that's what we asked Duet AI, and Duet AI responded to us with a very specific response. But I want you to use this last response in the fourth step and just copy it and just paste it in the content.js. Do not add it, replace the whole content. Previously, you had a console.log statement here, right? So you just override that. Oops, I did not copy. Okay, let me copy. So yeah, I'll copy it from here. I'll paste it here, right? So now after that, just go to your extensions page, reload the extension. I go back to the meeting, right? Where I have to supposedly wait if somebody is joining, and let's see if it's able to tell us when somebody is there. Okay, so Saransh Dhingra is already on the call, and therefore we get this console.log statement, right? So essentially, our content script was able to recognize if somebody was there on the call. Okay. So yeah, please show the content JS file. So it's there in the code lab. It's the last code snippet of the fourth step. That's where we're at. Okay. See, folks, like I've mentioned this here, and I've mentioned it before, Duet AI is non-deterministic, right? So it did respond slightly variable result here, which would have worked, but maybe not in all circumstances. But we don't want to spend time on those right now. So that's why I'm sort of recommending that you paste this code snippet from here. It is sort of tailor-made and it will help us just speed up the process, right? So just copy this content from this step, step 4, last code snippet, put it in your content.js file, and you should be good. Okay. So, okay. Now we have a way to detect if somebody has joined the meeting, but what to do now? We are our use cases that we want to get notified, right? We don't want just it to be pop up in the console. So how to do that? So that's what the next step is going to be like. It's okay. Should I move on? Yeah. Um, See, you can't run it in Google VS Code because um, it's not a language code which is compiled right now. The environment is that it's supposed to be run in a Google Chrome browser via the Chrome extensions platform. That's what we are getting at. So you can't run it in VS Code. Mutation observer in short. So I'll if we have time after the session, I'll get into that. But for now, I'll excuse myself from that. Okay. But by all means, ask Duet AI to do that. It will be great to for you to see the response that it gives. Okay. Okay. So now, how to send the notification to the user? You can obviously go to Chrome extensions documentation, but uh, essentially what you have to do is something called a chrome.notifications.create. Okay, that is the API that you have to use to get a notification like the one I showed you in the beginning of the call. So again, let's go back to our friend Duet AI and ask um, how can we do that. So we are on step 5. This is the first prompt using the documentation for Chrome notifications. Tell me how to use the chrome.notifications.create method. Highly specific, right? Be as specific as you want. So I'll just copy it, again, paste it in the prompt for Duet AI. Okay, I do get something. What are we dealing with here? So Duet AI was very nicely able to kind of get me the exact definition or exact signature on how to call the notifications.create method. It's even explaining what it does, right? So the my notification string is the notification ID. Its type is basic. There is an icon URL, there's a title, and there's message. It's pretty self-explanatory, but even for that, Duet has given a lot of explanation. Let us come back to the code lab. So it does give a lot of details about the notifications, right? In order to run this chrome.notifications.create, you have to have a background service worker. Okay, that is it's called a service worker in manifest version 3. It's called a background script in manifest version 2. So what we need to do is we need to add these two things in our manifest.json file. And so for folks who were calling out the background field and permissions field before, like I said, right, it would work for permissions, but now we are using those fields, right? So as mentioned here in the code lab, this is the version of our manifest file right now. So copy this, right, and just overwrite the contents in your manifest.json file. I will. So you can either override. I'll just be copying this because otherwise I'll have to put the key as well. So comma this. So this is how your manifest file should look like. Not like this, like this. So again, you can copy it from here completely. Are we good? Show of thumbs. Okay, I'll be moving on. So we have not done much here, right? We have just asked Duet AI on how some details about the Chrome.notifications, and we have just sort of overwritten our manifest file, right? So now let's use that information that we got from in the previous prompt about chrome.notifications.create and ask Duet AI a little bit more specifically on what to do, right? So this next prompt does that itself. Create a method send notification. We are telling it the name of the method that calls the notifications.create API. With this specific message, a user joined the call. For a Chrome extension with manifest version 3, the code is in the background service worker. Highly specific, right? I can't stress this enough. Be as specific as you want when you want something for your tailored needs, right? So I'll just copy this prompt and let's see what Duet responds with. Awesome. So it's actually given us a very specific and very accurate method signature, and it's also told us this is how we can call it. It's just a method call, right? So here's the next step that I want you to do. So you can save, you see this icon in the code lab, just save this image on the same directory of your project, right? I'll be doing that as well. Yes. Okay. I'll call it. So call it success.png, right? We have that very specific name because we are using it here. Otherwise, you can call it whatever you want. But again, because I want you to copy this, I would like you to call it success.png, right? So that is the first thing you have to do here. You just have to save this image in the same folder as you have manifest.json and the content.js. I'll just close this. Yeah. Now, the next step is to just copy this code, this exact last snippet, code snippet in the step 5, and put it in a new file called background.js, right? Right now, what we had manifest.json, we had content.js. Now I'm asking you to add two files. One is the success.png icon, right? Another is background.js, and the contents of that file should be the one in the last code snippet of the step 5. Okay. Now, how to test if it is working? Um, so the same way, right? Let's go to the extensions page, reload this extension. And if you see my screen, I immediately get a notification with the icon that we supplied, with the message that we have put, and with the title, right? I will give you folks a few minutes to do that. So if you're not getting a notification, folks, if you're not getting a notification, see in the code lab, there is a way for your browser might not have permissions to show you the notifications, right? So there are specific ways on how you can enable those permissions for your Google Chrome browser for Windows and Mac. Just you have to follow along those links, but that is not something this code lab is about. Not this session is about, right? Because we are dealing with Chrome extensions, not with browser permissions. So I'm on Mac, so I'll quickly just show the settings. So if you go to notifications, you see application notifications here. And if I go to Google Chrome Canary, I'm using Google Chrome Canary. You probably are using Google Chrome. So click this. This should be enabled. There's a different version for Windows. I have linked the steps in the code lab. That is what you have to use. But for a lot of users who have already enabled those notifications before, when you reload this extension, you should just see this notification like I have seen, like I see here. Okay. Can I? Okay, I'll repeat from the success.png again. So After we replaced the manifest, the contents in the manifest.json file, these are the latest manifest.json contents. You need to right click this image, which is in the code lab, save it as success.png in the same folder that you have manifest.json. That is the first thing you have to do. Then copy this last snippet from the step 5, put it in a new file called background.js. These are the two new files in the step. That's all. Success.png, which you have downloaded, and the contents of the background.js file. Right? And once you do that, once you save this, go ahead and reload this extension from your extensions page. When you reload it, if you see my screen right now, I am seeing a notification, right? So you should also see some sort of notification. If you're having Windows and you have the browser notifications enabled, you probably have to click on your lower right hand side, basically wherever you see the notifications from, right? On Mac, we see them here, so we are able to see it here. On Windows, you see it on the right hand side bottom corner. Okay. Okay.
Leads, could you please help with the messages in the chat, please? It'll be great because every time Saransh is going to the chat messages, it's getting a bit distracting for folks who have already completed that step. So, yeah. Hardik, if you're not able to, if you're getting error in background.js, you probably want to check if you have updated the script in that particular step, which is step 6, right? I believe.
Step 5
Step
and
5.
yeah, these are the latest contents of the manifest file. That's what you have to make sure that it's matching this.
All right, just follow the code lab for steps for all the points in step 5. And Leads, would you, if you could help with Sriram's error about the image, it'll be great. Thank you, folks. Show of thumbs, how many of you got to this point in step 5? So we could move on to the second last, almost the last step, sending message. All right, thank you.
Okay, so by now we have detected that a new user is able to join a call, so that's working for us. Obviously, it's in console right now, but we have the detection going on in JavaScript. We have also been able to send a notification using the Chrome extension, right? But how to link these two? So that is the next step that we'll be dealing with, and it's basically it's a connection between your content script and your background script, right? So essentially, it's called message passing in the terminology of Chrome extension world. I don't know where they get these names, but yeah, that's what it is called. And with this, what we are going to do is we are going to send a message from the content script, right? And the background service worker that we created, it's going to receive that message and respond to us by a notification, which is essentially what we want, right? So let's dig in a little bit and ask Duet on how we can do that. So here's the first prompt of step 6. We've moved to step 6. How to send a message from the content script to the background script in a Chrome extension. Okay, I'll copy this and we'll go to Duet AI and paste. Okay, so like I've mentioned in the code lab, I'll just return to the code lab. I have mentioned that Duet responds with runtime.send message and on message dot add listener. So these are basically, one is a call to action, the other is an event listener, right? In JavaScript, we have event listeners to basically react to events, right? That is the paradigm we have. So we'll be putting the call to chrome.runtime.send message in our content script, right? Essentially where we had our console.log statement, we'll be doing this. And in our background script, we'll be having this event listener and we'll be calling our send notification method from this event listener, right? So let's see how to do that. So as you can see, this is the latest code that we have in step 6. I've mentioned the content, the updated code of the content.js. Just copy that, okay, and overwrite the code inside the content.js. Do not append it, overwrite it, because otherwise it will just recreate the mutation observers. Once you've done that, copy this next snippet and overwrite the code in background.js. I'll explain what we are doing, but right now let's just see what is the effect. Okay. Now, I'll wait for a few seconds for everybody to copy the code. Make sure on you're on step 6, and this is the first code snippets of the step 6. Okay. So right now we have not done anything. We have just overwritten the code of the content.js and background.js. What are we changing? So if you realize from your previous setups, the only thing is that we had a console.log statement here, right? That which was exactly what was logging inside this, inside this. Whenever it recognized that there is somebody in the call, it would log this, right? So instead of that console.log statement, we have this method call. What is this method call doing? This is essentially sending a message to the background script, right? What is the data of that? It's basically telling that a user has joined the call. This is going to be the message of our notification. And what is so you do not have to follow this, but for this code lab, I would recommend you stick to this. It's essentially a way for us to send data to the background script, right? What is happening in the background script? We are just adding an event listener that basically checks that whenever the message action is people join, which is custom, right? We have told it that people have joined. Make a call to the send notification method with the txt of this message, which is the statement a user has joined the call, right? So after we have updated this, let me just show you what is the effect of this right now. So I'll again go and reload the extension, right? I'll go and reload the meet page. This is where we are, where we have to wait for anybody else to join the call. Let me try to simulate somebody else joining the call. So somebody has now joined the call. Did we get, okay, yeah, a user has joined the call. So essentially it's now, previously when we reloaded the extension, we were getting a notification because that was almost just a test, right? But now whenever somebody joins the meeting, we are getting the notification of a user has joined the call. Okay. So it's okay not to recreate this step because we are going to do it again in the final step. But I just wanted you to see that this is our latest code and this is the effect it is getting. So we have essentially linked our content script and our background script, which means that the content script is doing the detection work in the page, in the Google Meet page, where it is basically checking if somebody has joined the call. It is sending a successful message to the background script, and the background script is basically sending a notification to us, right? Which is the actually essential flow. But in interest of time, I'll just we'll do it once again, but let me just tell you some improvements that we are going to do here, right? So just scroll down on the page and you should see the latest version of all the files here. You should see the latest version of the manifest file. You should see the latest version of the content.js file, and you should see the latest version of the background.js file. What I would like you to do is just copy and paste it to your all the respected files. I'll also do that. I'll copy this content.js, overwrite the code in the content.js. I'll copy the code in the background.js, override it in the background.js, my local file, right? And obviously you also need to copy the manifest.js. If you've already copied in a previous step, just make sure and verify if all the fields are the same. Like it should have a permissions field with the value of notifications. It should specify the background with the service worker value of background.js. It should specify the JS, the content script with the content.js, right? All of these things we have done in a previous step, but this is the final state of the file. I'll give a few seconds for everybody to. Even the image success.png is not showing. So if okay, so see, it's a signature of the chrome.notifications.create method which we did, right? It's actually expecting an icon there. You can actually use any file there. If you have a custom PNG of your own, you can use there. You don't have to download a file from the code lab. That is just for your helper. But the only thing is it should be in the same folder of as your project, as your other files. As you can see, it's in the same level of folder as I have manifest.json, content.js and background.js, right? So it's in the same folder. And I am referring it with a basically that I'm / means same directory, right? So we are basically saying that it's in the same directory. Once you have this, there should not be any problem. If you're not seeing the icon here, that's pretty much okay. I mean, when I hover out, I'm able to see that icon. When I hover in, Mac decides to show me something else, right? Okay. So show of hands for everybody who have updated the files to this final stage. Yes, a heart works too. I would love that. Okay. Okay. So how do we test this now? And what are the changes? Let me just walk you through that. So again, to test the extension, we'll just reload this extension. Okay. Go back to Meet. I can actually close the console now. Okay. Now I've come here. I'm waiting for my manager or my crush or whosoever. And now I'm waiting for them to join. Let me simulate somebody joining the call. Now they have joined. Okay, somebody has actually joined this. Do I get the notification? Yep. Rest assured, I get a user has joined the call and even the name of the user is here, right? Saransh Dhingra has joined the call. So that is the bigger difference from the previous step, which we did. How do we get that? So in our, if you observe this, this final state of the content.js, we already had that image, right? We already were recognizing that is the child element count greater than 0? Is there any image in this div, right? Once it had, it was very easy to get the title attribute. So if you recall from the here, if you recall from here, the title attribute of the image had the name of the person who had joined, right? So what we did in the content.js file is we just use some basic JavaScript to get the first image and then get the attribute of title. We save the name, we save that attribute in the name, and we called send message from that name. In the send message, we are just customizing our message which we were showing. If we do not have that name, if it is equal to null, then when we just show someone has joined the call, right? If we have the name, right, we show, in this case it showed Saransh has joined the call, and we just send that message to our background script, right? In the background script, we do not have many changes. All we are doing is, previously we had a notification ID as a static string. Now we are just using a tab ID. What it means is every tab of Meet will have their own notification copies. If you keep the same notification ID, it'll just override the contents. It will probably not show you the new notification. If you use a tab ID, every Meet in a new tab will have its own notification. So maybe you're a person who has different meetings, I don't know, different meetings going on, and you want notifications for all of them, right? So this is how you can do that, because they'll be in another tab, right? So yeah, with this, we are done with the whole code lab. Just a couple of important showstoppers. One of he was getting it, but later on after step 5, they were not related. And another one has um, is wondering if the messages are blocked by browser. Okay. You want to repeat the enabling. So I can answer that. If you were getting the notifications previously and you're not getting now, that then probably you have somewhere missed the contents like this permission of the notifications. Just verify that everything. So in the final step of the code lab, if you have everything, then you should again get the notifications. It should not be a problem. Or like sometimes what I've seen in Mac is that the notification does arrive, but it doesn't pop up, right? It when you click this, it's only visible here. So is like window on Windows. It might not pop up, but because it has same notification IDs, it might just be there on your what is that icon called? On Windows, we have on the right hand side when we click this, not this, the notification icon. You click that and then you're able to see. Maybe check that. The other showstopper was yeah. So see, the only way as a Chrome extension developer, we do not have any power over what user does in their operating system, right? Or how what limitations they have. But if somebody has enabled the notification, if someone has enabled the Chrome notifications, only then these notifications will be visible like a notification, right? So that is a limit which is sort of there as a privacy concern of the user. For example, if somebody has DND enabled, somebody has, so on our Android systems or on phones, we have bedtime modes or DNDs, right? Notifications do not show up in those modes. So that is an example of the limit set by the operating system. So as a Chrome extension developer, there's no way to do that. But as a user of that laptop, you can definitely enable. I would recommend you to use Duet AI or Gemini to kind of just Google, kind of just research on how you can enable notifications on your operating system. But yeah, that's pretty much as far as we can do in control as a Chrome extension developer. One last question, which is service worker inactive. Okay, yeah, okay. I'll so this is sort of going. So if you see my screen, even I see service worker inactive. Even this extension is showing service worker inactive, right? This is not saying that your background script is incorrect or something. It is just saying that, okay, your service worker received an event. It was active for a few seconds. So if I recreate this, for example, right? If I recreate this notification, let me try that. Yeah. Now you see the service worker does not have an inactive thing there. So this is basically a feature of the manifest version 3 in Chrome extensions. Previously, what used to happen, I'm diving a little bit deep, but just trying to answer the question, that previously the background scripts or the service worker would remain active for a constantly, as long as your browser was open or as long as your operating system was running. This was obviously hogging a lot of memory, right? And this was obviously a concern privacy wise. So the Chrome extensions released this manifest version 3, which has these features that the service worker remains active only when it is needed. So in our context, it was only needed when the notification needed to be shown. When that happened, it became active. As you see, it automatically became inactive. This doesn't affect you in any way. You just have to be familiar with the paradigms of these things, right? This doesn't mean that it's inactive. It just means that it is not consuming any memory, right?
So, show of thumbs. Do you want to check how many of the folks we have on the call now completed, got the notification? For okay, one last question. How many of you are building Chrome extensions for the first time in this session? Awesome. That's interesting. Do you have any? Okay, you can. I'll come back to you. But before we hand it over to Saransh for closing thoughts, I just wanted to highlight a few things that you may need for submission of results, right? So let's just go over that. What you need to submit when you complete this. Remember, you have time. You have a week's time before next session. So you can complete session one's code lab and submit the result. And you can complete session two's code lab and submit the result. The code labs 1 and 2 are pretty detailed. You have everything you need to complete it, even at your own time even by yourself, you can follow the code lab. This was an informative session where you can follow us along. But if even if you missed, I understand, we go back, repeat a certain things, or we miss certain questions on the chat. So it's okay if you don't, if you're not catching up to speed right now. That's totally fine. That's why we have the code lab, which is detailed enough for you to address all those steps. So please reach out there. And also, if you go to codevipassana.dev, the landing page, you would be here. Scroll down, you would see the session agenda, right? Season agenda. So last session also, you have all the details. You have result submission link and everything. This session also, you have the link to code lab. You have the link to result submission app, where you go in there and you know what the app looks like. You know the drill. The app, the result submission video is also uploaded right here. Right below that, there is result submission and validation app. And you also have a link, which Arkadyuti, one of our leads, Code Vipassana community leads, graciously recorded a video that instructs you on how to submit the session results using this app, right? So follow that and submit it. What you have to submit for session 2, I'm going to show that right now. So if you notice, go to the code lab, go to step 2, let the fun begin step, right? On the right hand side, scroll down. After installing the basic extension, this is the question you're asking, the prompt. Sorry, not after. During This is the first step. This is the first step in installing the basic extension. So what is the question that you're asking, Duet AI? What are the important parts to build a Chrome extension? Sorry, not that. The next prompt. Create a manifest.json file to build a Chrome extension. Make the name of the extension Meet Joinees Notifier. On the author, within angle brackets, you have your email. So that is the prompt that we want to provide as a screenshot. Not just this prompt, I'll show you exactly what the screenshot should look like. So let me share my screen. I know it's not shared at the moment, so just a second. Is my screen visible?
It's yeah, now it's ready.
All right. So this is the part that we want to share. So starting from Duet AI logo, Duet AI in Cloud Console, and Conversation Assistant Clear Chat. So you need to have this blue box or whatever color it is for you. Create a manifest.json file to build a Chrome extension. Make the name of the extension, whatever I showed in the code lab, right? So code lab, go to code lab. Step number 3, let the fun begin. Second prompt from the top, which I've highlighted right here. So copy that prompt. I mean, you would have completed this step, of course, but go back to the step and probably just take a screenshot of this one, right? This prompt and this response, the entire frame, starting from here till the enter a prompt here. You also need to have the text box, the rounded text box showing up, right? Till this part. That's all we need. You don't have to include the scroll bar in the image. So this is what your image screenshot should look like. All right. There is no scroll bar. If I have to submit this, this is how I'd submit. Okay. With the Duet AI console logo, the prompt, and the response. All right. So that is what you're submitting. Anything? Yeah. If you go back to codevipassana.dev, all the other details that you need regarding the code lab, regarding the result submission app link, if the app rejects your screenshot and you consistently feel that your screenshot is good, it's accurate, but still the app is rejecting it because some of the text is different, it's possible, but it's not, it should not. But if you feel that your image is not accepted for whatever reason, you'll see the reason why it's rejected. Stick to the acceptable version as much as you can. Remember, it has to be a JPG, but still, if it rejects, then you always have a backup option to submit it via the RSVP form. Make sure that you use the same lab code that you created for session 1 throughout the season. So you have to remember the lab code as well while you're submitting from the RSVP form as well, the link to which is mentioned here. All right. So that is pretty much it from the housekeeping side for this particular session's results submission. And the recording for this session will be made available probably in a few hours in the website as well, and you'll receive an email from RSVP site with all the details that I just explained. Right. So I'll hand it over to Saransh for closing thoughts, and we'll just hang out for about 5 minutes, and then we'll close the call.
Okay, so I'd just like to repeat that you all did great here. And congratulations for some of you who built the first extension, and for others who were able to build an extension using Duet AI. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. So with I'd just like to say some closing thoughts that Chrome extensions are really, really powerful. You can customize a lot of things using Chrome extensions. There are a lot of APIs that we have not really touched right now. You can automate tasks. You can, if you do not like the look and feel of a website, you can change that. If you do not like some functionality, you can change it to a great deal. Chrome extensions are really, really powerful. So I'd like you to use Duet AI, Gemini, and the documentation from for Chrome extensions, and it'll really, really help you. And if you want to see more Chrome extensions of front-end content, spam the code the Pasna team for asking for it more. Just kidding. Spamming is wrong. Wink, wink. There is a Discord channel. Okay, on the Discord channel. So yeah, that's all from my side. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Saransh. That was an incredible session, and I'm really thrilled because this is new for a lot of folks, and also using Duet AI to accomplish that was something that we wanted to do outside the box. Because of course we are dealing with a lot of Python applications, we're dealing with the Java applications, and so on and so forth. This was something that we wanted to try outside the box, and we got really engaging feedback about the topic selection as well. So we wanted to go ahead with it. Yeah, I'll repeat the screenshot content really quickly. But before that, some folks reached out asking for Saranch's LinkedIn profile. It's linked in the website itself. You can go to codevipassana.dev. You can go to current session, and Saranch's bio is there. Sorry, I didn't introduce in the beginning. That's not Code Vipassana style, so I did not do. But that's why the bio is updated. You can definitely go in there and read that. And also the LinkedIn is updated in the session as well. So I'm going to show the result one more time before closing out. It's all the instructions are also there in codevipassana.dev page, and you'll also receive that in a screenshot. But still, I'm going to show it anyway, just one last time. So if you go to Code Lab, you have the Code Lab link. You should have it in the email that was sent from RSVP site. You should have it on codevipassana.dev, the Code Lab link. So go to step 3 of the Code Lab. And from the top, if you scroll down, you will see prompt number 2, which is create a manifest.json file to build a Chrome extension. Make the name of the extension Meet Joinees Notifier and the author your email. You can change the email, or you can just paste that as a prompt in the Duet AI console, the chat console, right? You know how to go to Duet AI chat console. We have discussed that in detail. I'm not going to get into that right now. Just go there and enter the prompt in the chat box and type it and hit enter, and you should get the response as you can see here in my screenshot. And your screenshot should cover everything starting from Duet AI console, the logo to the enter a prompt here text box, the rounded text box. You don't have to include the sliding scroll bar, vertical scroll bar on the right. You can just include this and submit it. If for any reason your submission is not being accepted by the app and you feel that it's accurate, I don't want to make it exactly look this. I don't know. You may receive the reason why it's not accepting it. If that is not acceptable for you, go ahead and submit it using the form RSVP form link that is also made available on the site. I hope that helps. I'll just stop sharing my screen now. But before that, before stopping the share, I also wanted to show one last thing, which is go to the website codevipassana.dev. You should see the next session, which is on the 29th, accelerating test-driven development. That is also another exciting topic. We have another amazing speaker coming up for that. And then we have time between that and the follow-up session. So you have enough time to complete all the sessions and submit the screenshots, results for each session. So don't worry about it at all if you're not able to complete it within the session. Just understand that is by design, because so you can, that's why the code lab is pretty detailed. So you're not struggling and scrambling when you're doing it on your own. The code lab covers every single detail, all the links that you need. And if you're still not able to follow and not able to finish it, the Discord channel link is also available in codevipassana.dev site. Scroll down. There is a topic section called Connect with Code Vipassana Community, and the community has created a Discord group, and they will be the leads. There are leads who are amazing, who were there throughout the call today, and they were answering questions for you. Without them, Code Vipassana does not exist. So thank you, leads, for joining. Thanks a lot, Saransh, for an amazing session. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I'll stop talking now. All right, folks. Thank you very much for joining. Yes, you have to use the same lab code in all the sessions for submitting results. Session 1, what you need to submit, it's there in your codevipassana.dev site. We already discussed that. I cannot open that and show that again right now. Please go back to the site and check it. All right. Thank you very much, folks. Really appreciate all your time. Thank you. See you soon on 29th. Go have dinner and enjoy the code extension learning that you did just now. Bye.